Hi, Nicole.
Hello, Prudence. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Welcome to the interview.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Before we start talking more about the details of the job, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I am fairly early on in my VA career, but
Mhm.
extremely enthusiastic. I recently completed an 8-week full time intensive program with African Leadership Accelerator, specifically to train me to become a VA. It was a very intensive program and comprehensive. Some of the key highlights that we covered were a deep dive into Google Workspace. So that includes Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, Google Drive, Gmail, Google Calendar. And then we covered soft skills like communication, collaboration, and time management. And we also covered and practiced a lot of the most common VA skills. So things like arranging travel, transport, booking accommodation, managing entry and exit requirements for different countries. We covered meeting agendas and taking appropriate notes in a meeting. We also covered data entry and completed a comprehensive data entry task. Um, as well as project management. And it was a very hands on applied program. So we got a lot of practical experience doing that. So that's kind of about me recently. And some other things I might tell you about me are that I'm a highly analytical person and
Hmm.
extremely organized and focused on details. And so I'm really excited about tackling VA work.
It was exciting to hear and just to listen about the course that you've been undertaking. Seems like it empowers you to be good at becoming a VA. So, talking about this role that you are applying for, can you tell me why you think you are a perfect fit?
Well, I was really excited when I saw the ad, which was on LinkedIn about a week ago, because it specifically mentioned social media management. And I have a particular interest in growing my strength in social media management. I've done a lot of informal social media management on a volunteer basis for a couple of performing artists that I know and are in my network. And I've managed their campaigns and seen 300% increase in their followers over just a few weeks of my work with them. So I have a specific interest in developing that further. And that really called me about this particular role. Also, I really liked that it mentioned booking travel and doing data entry because I've had some experience with that and that has come easy to me and I enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that kind of work as well.
Tell me more about your current role, and what do you do? What are the top three skills that you use every day?
Yeah, so right now I am volunteering for a local politician. She is the mayor of a small town, and I care a lot about my community and wanted to gain some experience. So I have been for the past 4 months volunteering in her office, and it's been such a rich experience. I have been handed so many different kinds of tasks to do, and it's been so exciting to like be given something new and not necessarily know right away exactly what's needed, but to figure it out. So for example, she said she needed to communicate with 3,000 people in her constituency. Okay, so one, I didn't know what the word constituency meant at the time she said it. So I immediately Googled it and found context and made sure I really understand what that meant. And then I went back to her and redefined the problem as I understood it to make sure that I really knew what she wanted. And she was like, "Yep, you got it right on." So I was like, "Great." And then I developed two different possible strategies for how we could communicate. One was more of a digital strategy, and one was a physical letter writing campaign. And I listed out some pros and cons of each one, and I brought it to her, and she made the call that she wanted to go with the letter writing one. And so then I was then put in charge of executing that, and we had to develop a prioritized list and make sure we had accuracy on everybody's physical address And we got out this campaign and we had a huge response rate. Over 80% of the people who received the letter responded to us in the way that we had asked them to do. So it was a really exciting experience.
It does. It sounds really enriching, which would lead me to my next question. Why would you leave such a role for what we're offering here? What's your motivation?
You know, I do really love the work that I'm doing, and I'm learning so much, and I'm so grateful for the experience. I really desire to grow in my career, and I'm looking for a job that will give me an opportunity to learn as much as possible, to expand my skill set, to challenge me, to give me something that I can really sink my teeth into. And it really seems like this particular role, especially with its focus on social media campaigns, would be a great opportunity for me to do that.
I like what you've said about growth and learning. On the other end, what do you think you can contribute to this role?
Yeah, well, I can give you a couple of key things. One is that I am very resourceful, and I feel that my strength lies in figuring out things that other people have kind of given up on or feel like it's too hard. Like, I am gritty, like I persevere and I will find a way if there is one. And I like solving difficult problems. So the example I gave of this campaign of how to communicate with constituents, like, I figured out how to do that. And I'm also not afraid to fail. So we can't know everything, and I will always give my very best and to vet my solutions. But in the event that something doesn't work out, I'm very quick to humbly absorb that, learn from it, and try again. So I would say, to summarize that particular skill, it's like a resourceful, problem-solving, perseverant skill. Another skill is that I'm very good with numbers and spreadsheets specifically. So I'm good at making pivot tables, graphs, and charts that illustrate in ways that people can understand. And, so we have a data set. I love working with those numbers and converting, raw numbers in a spreadsheet into a visual format that people can look at quickly and understand comprehensively what's happening with their data. I love telling a story visually with numbers. So that would be the second one. The third one is I really enjoy working with people, and I feel like relationship with your teammates is one of the most important things you have. I value that. I value getting feedback. I value keeping relationships positive, and love working with people from a diverse variety of backgrounds and figuring out how we can all lend our different strengths to create a team that's really solid.
Right. You preempted one of my questions, which had to do with your response to failure. For, how do you handle failure? And you've just spoken to it really well. So my next question for you would be, the last time you found yourself in a conflict situation, how did you manage that?
Oh, that's a great question. Glad you asked that. The first thing that comes to my mind is a minor conflict I had with this mayor who I was volunteering for. She was under the impression that she had told me that a certain set of documents needed to be delivered by a certain time the next day. And for whatever reason, I didn't receive that information correctly. I don't know if she misspoke or I misheard. Doesn't really matter. But what does matter is I failed to deliver the documents at the time she had intended they get there. And so she was a little upset with me. And, I feel like I handled it pretty well. I just apologized and I reflected back to her that it was really important that the documents show up at a certain time and they didn't get there. So I just sent an email to the recipient and apologized for my error in not getting it there on time. I'm not sure if it was my error or not, but it doesn't really matter. I was just wanting to make it right. So I sent an email and I apologized, and they were gracious about it. And then I also asked the mayor if we could set up a system in the future that I could just confirm with her times. And so I actually created a spreadsheet with the different tasks that she needed and the dates and times. And then every night I just let her know if there's been any updates. So and since we implemented that system, we haven't had any miscommunications. So I feel like we navigated it really successfully and grew from it.
I like hearing how you owned up to the mistake, whether it was yours or your team's, but you represented your team as a whole and owned up to that mistake. And I like how you took initiative to set up a system that you can use in future. So my next question is, working with the mayor for a city or a town, you are exposed to a lot of information, some of it sensitive. How do you manage that, just handling sensitive information?
I take that very seriously. For example, one document that has information that potentially is sensitive, and I don't want to share any more because even to disclose that might be a violation, and I always err on the side of caution. But with this sensitive information, I created a document and made sure it was password protected, and only I and 3 other people who the mayor identified specifically as trusted individuals have access to that file and that password. And I'm always looking for other ways to make sure that our information is definitely safeguarded. It's really important to me.
Right, and I'm guessing that working with the mayor, you do have a few altercations here and there, seeing that she's high profile. Tell me more about that.
You know what? I think she's a really wonderful person. I think that she has a very difficult job, and certainly she's under stress at certain times, and there are times where she kind of loses patience. But I really understand why that would be the case. And so I try to support her as best I can, and I appreciate her work ethic. I appreciate that she cares so much about what she does, and it's really an honor for me to support her. I've really enjoyed working for her. I've learned a lot from her.
So Nicole, other than the course that you so highly talked about and the few weeks experience with the mayor, you don't seem to have any other experience. So why should we hire you for this position?
I would probably be asking the same thing. And I recognize that when you're hiring someone who's fairly early on in their career, you're taking on a little bit more risk. So I appreciate the fact that you are interviewing me and giving me a shot. What I can tell you is that I'm extremely committed to this career path, and I'm excited and enthusiastic about it. And I do feel like I've gained a considerable number of foundational skills that will allow me to hit the ground running. My technological skills, so I've got proficiency in the 7 different Google Workspace apps. I've done a few projects really showing my skill and demonstrating my skill in terms of booking travel. I have my volunteer experience for doing social media and my volunteer experience for the mayor. And I feel like that's really equipped me with this solid foundation so that I'm ready to continue expanding. And I'm excited to prove myself. If you hire me over someone else who maybe has a little bit more experience, I can promise you that you will see my energy and enthusiasm and my eagerness to demonstrate my value and make myself indispensable as part of your team.
Your eagerness and enthusiasm for this role can be seen through our conversation. I know earlier you mentioned that you had to give your current employer 1 month notice, but we need somebody immediately to start within the next week. Would you be able to do that?
I understand it makes sense that you'd want somebody to start right away. I do feel a commitment to my current volunteer opportunity. I did tell them that I would give them 1 month notice, and it's important to me that I honor that. So I'm wondering if we might find a creative solution. So I would be willing to work 10 hours a week, starting immediately. And another thing I'd be willing to do is to talk to the mayor's office and see if they might let me taper off the last few weeks so that I could ramp up more with you and ramp down more fully with them. I can't promise right now without having spoken to them that they would allow that, but I've seen a couple other people do something similar, and I think given, how grateful that they are for the quality of work I've done, that they'd be willing to work with me. So I hope that we could find a creative solution where I can start adding value right away and then very quickly come up to full time.
I fully respect your thought pattern there, and it is important to conclude your contract on a good note. Should we take this further, I think we can talk about it some more and see how best we could do it. I think I've exhausted my questions for you here. Do you have anything to ask me about ABS or this position?
Yes, I definitely do. So I saw that last year ABS was involved in a campaign around spaying and neutering pets. And I thought that was so cool because I'm a pet lover. And I'm just curious, do you think that the company will be doing anything more on efforts around animal welfare?
Great question, Nicole. And it's good to see that you've been doing a bit of research about ABS. Yes, we do have some efforts in the pipeline. There is a team I would love for you to meet, and you can talk to them more about that. But animal welfare is top priority for ABS. And should you join us, then maybe you could spend a few of your hours supporting those teams responsible for animal wellness.
Oh, that would be so exciting.
Right.
I do have one other question for you.
Yes, yes.
I am open to working remotely or working in the office. Both have their pros and cons, but I'm curious if you have a sense of what percentage of the work might take place remotely versus what percentage might take place in person.
Great. Thank you for asking that question because most people assume. I do believe that 80% or more of the work will be online. We might have moments during the year where we need the teams to all come together just to build camaraderie and for some annual conferences that we have. And those we can discuss, should you join the team. But normally that's like once or twice a year for a period of like 2 weeks max, where you need to be in person. I hope that answers you.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. That's really helpful, and that would work very well for me. So that's good to know. I have one more question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure. Gladly. Go ahead.
Okay. So my question is, would I be reporting directly to you? And if yes, what are the 2 or 3 most important qualities you've had in past administrative assistants that you've really valued?
Another great question. You will not be reporting directly to me. You'll be reporting to the digital content manager, whom you'll meet in the second round of these interviews if you are successful. From what I've seen and from discussions, the most important qualities for this role, one is somebody who's willing to learn. We will give you a lot of tasks that you have not been exposed to, but if you are resourceful and you have a learning mindset, I do think that you would succeed in the position. Secondly, we need somebody who's tech savvy and able to navigate the social media space, as the role title already gives away that this has to do with social media. And you've spoken a little bit about that already. And then lastly, we need somebody who's a good team player. You will not be working in a silo. There are other people involved, and we need somebody who can communicate and share information with the team and also collaborate well with the others.
Wow, thank you so much. That really gives me a fuller picture of the role, and it also stokes my enthusiasm because I feel like those are 3 strengths that I bring. I'm very learning oriented and growth oriented. I've got strong tech skills, especially on the social media, and I really do enjoy working with diverse teams and feel really strongly about the importance of healthy, well-functioning teams. So that makes me even more excited about the role. Thank you for sharing that.
You're most welcome, Nicole. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I look forward to our next conversation, and just thank you for taking time to interview with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Prudence. It's been wonderful to meet with you and talk with you, and I really hope to hear from you soon.